Hi, everyone. We've spent the last 2 weeks looking at our first exilic character, Daniel. In just a few moments, we are going to be meeting and learning about some of Daniel's friends, 3 in specific. Here's Shadrach.
Hey guys.
Hey, Shadrach. Here's Meshach. Hi, Meshach. And here's Abednego.
Hey, I can't see anyone. Does anyone know how? Oh, there we go. Hey, Shadrach and Shadrach and Meshach.
Abednego, good to see you, old man. How are the wife and kids?
They're doing good. They're actually visiting with family right now. That's why I have time to come and talk to you guys.
Kids, these are my friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And as I already said, these are Daniel's friends as well. Thank you guys for joining our lesson.
Hey, before we get started, I've always wondered this. Why is my name always last when we mention their names? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It's always last.
Well, it must mean Shadrach and I are more important.
About time you speak up, Meshach. But yeah, right. I'm sure it's not that. But whatever, that doesn't matter. We have more important things to do.
Yes, we do. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I've invited you 3 here today to help retell the stories that we find in the Bible about you. We've been learning about the exilic characters in the Bible, and we began with your buddy, Daniel. And we've learned about him the last 2 weeks.
Oh yes, Daniel, that man is always busy. Being one of the leaders in Darius's kingdom, I haven't talked with him for quite some time.
Hey, Meshach, you talk about important. Daniel was a man who was important. He was high up in the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar and Darius, 2 great kings. What a leader he is.
Yeah, and you guys remember that time Daniel made a deal with the chief of the eunuchs for us to eat vegetables while everyone else ate the king's food?
Do I remember? Yeah, I couldn't forget the bland taste of those vegetables while everyone else was eating the delicious food of the king.
Abednego, you know it was the right thing to do. To not give in to the sin of eating the king's food, though his food was delicious, we would have been sinning if we ate it.
I know. You're always right, Shadrach.
It's so good to hear you guys talking about your memories. I'd like you guys to think about 2 memories in specific today with us that are retold in the Bible. One of these includes Daniel, and the other one, it's actually just you 3. Let's start with the one that's first told in the Bible that includes Daniel, and that's from Daniel chapter 2.
Okay, well, ugh, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, that's what we get when we use Zoom. Whose idea was this?
Guys, let's get on with this. The kids are waiting. I'll start off with the story and you guys can add in as I go. All right, kids, this is how it went. One day, our king, the king of Babylon, King Nebuchadnezzar, had a dream. Now, back in our day, when some people had dreams, they wanted their dreams explained. You know how sometimes you have dreams and you have no clue what they mean or why you had them. Well, King Nebuchadnezzar wanted to be told what his dream meant, but he also wanted to be told what he had dreamt. Now, there are also people called magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, who would usually be in charge of telling what dreams meant, but they were never asked to tell the dream. That was unheard of.
Shadrach, do you remember what they said to the king? This is what they said, and it's also found in Daniel 2:10 through 11. They said, "There is not a man on earth who can meet the king's demand, for no great and powerful king has asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or Chaldean. The thing that the king asks is difficult, and no one can show it to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh." This is very interesting because we are going to tell you in a few moments about Daniel doing exactly what the king is asking for. And those magicians were right. By no man by his own doing could do what the king was asking. But they were wrong when they said that no God dwells with or is with humans.
The next part scared us so bad. So the king wanted this dream told to him, and he wanted told what it meant. And if no one did, then all of those who usually helped him with these kinds of things would be killed. And guess what? Me, Daniel, Shadrach, and Meshach were part of that group.
Boy, was that scary. But Daniel stayed calm, cool, and collected, and went up to the man who was supposed to kill us, and asked for a time that he could go and explain to the king his dream. So Daniel was going to give the king what happened in his dream, and then tell him what it meant. Meshach, tell them what Daniel did next.
Yeah, Daniel didn't do what we might have thought he would do. We are about to be killed, and Daniel comes to us, 3 friends, and he asks us to pray. Daniel takes the time and very tough situation. So we prayed, and God gave Daniel the dream and what it meant, so he could present it to the king.
Let's pause there for one moment. Kids, this is such a great example to all of us to pray just like Daniel did. He was in a difficult situation, and instead of trying to figure out himself or going for help from someone else, he runs to none other than God. And he has his friends join him. Is your first reaction to turn to God in prayer? We should learn from Daniel that we need to look to and trust in God by going to him in prayer in all situations.
That is very true. Now, this first story ends by Daniel actually going to King Nebuchadnezzar, and he stresses that it's not by his own abilities or just being smart that he can tell the king his dreams. And what it meant by, he says, God is the one who told me these things. So Daniel gave the credit to God and then told King Nebuchadnezzar his dream and what it meant. And this dream was not some random dream, but this dream told Nebuchadnezzar what would happen to his kingdom. So there you have it. The first time we were almost killed, but that was not the last.
Abednego, you got that right. This next time might have been even scarier for us.
Kids, you may have even heard of this one before. The time us 3 were thrown into a burning furnace.
Yeah, here I think we're out of danger, and then good old King Nebuchadnezzar decides to set up a huge golden statue that we and the rest of the people were supposed to bow down to. There is no way we could do this when we followed the one true and only God.
Yeah, and this time it was just the 3 of us, no Daniel. But we decided we would not bow down to King Nebuchadnezzar's idol, so we were brought to the furnaces.
Now, this was no little campfire or even as hot as your oven, but this was a huge furnace that King Nebuchadnezzar heated 7 times hotter than usual. Boy, were we sweating. But we refused to bow down to his idol, and the king was furious. Abednego, why don't you tell them what happened next?
Okay, so they tied us up and threw us in the furnace. And you wouldn't believe it, but the guys who chucked us in died because of how hot the fire was. But we didn't. And I guess that's pretty obvious since we're sitting here talking to you guys. We're still not quite, there's another man, there's a 4th man who joined us in the fire. We're still not quite sure who it was, but all we know is that God rescued us and let us walk out of there without it burning us. You know how when you sit around a campfire, you have campfire smells for the next few hours? Well, we didn't even smell like fire when we left. This was amazing. It was definitely a miracle.
When we walked out unharmed, this is what King Nebuchadnezzar said. Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him, and set aside the king's command, and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make a decree. Any people, nation, or language that speaks anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb, and their houses laid in ruins. For there is no other God who is able to rescue in this way.
Yeah, King Nebuchadnezzar, who didn't believe in God before this makes a law that no one was allowed to say anything bad about our God.
Wow, what a witness you guys were to King Nebuchadnezzar and to everyone else who was around. Kids, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are examples to us of how we too can be a witness. How if you stand up for what you believe in and are willing to talk about it with others, that God can use you to be a witness for him. King Nebuchadnezzar does not start by following God, yet in this story, but he certainly hears about him and he sees a great example from these three friends of Daniel. Well, men, it has been great to have you join us today. Thanks for giving up your time to teach these kids some Bible stories.
Well, thanks for having us. I can't believe how long it's been since I've seen these two. So thank you for getting us all together.
Yeah, we really need to get together more often.
Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, thanks again and take care. Abednego, you know that your video's still on? We're seeing you fix your hat. Well, kids, that was yet another lesson on 3 more of our exilic characters. Next week, we come to a character we've heard a lot about so far, and finally, we get to learn about him and actually meet him, or at least see him next week. Have a great week.